Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome to Spirit Speakeasy. I'm Joy Giovanni, Joyful Medium. I'm a working psychic medium, energy healer, and spiritual gifts mentor. This podcast is like a seat at the table in a secret club, but with mediums, mystics, and the spiritual luminaries of our time. So come behind the velvet ropes with me and see inside my world as I chat insider style with profoundly gifted souls. We go deep, share juicy stories, laugh a lot, and it wouldn't be a speakeasy without great insider secrets and tips. You might even learn that you have some gifts of your own. So step inside the Spirit Speakeasy. Hey, beautiful soul, welcome back or welcome in for another episode of Spirit Speakeasy. Today we are going to be talking all about who is on your spirit guide team. Did you know that you had a team, not just one? We're going to cover lots of aspects of this. Many of us have heard of spirit guides, but have you ever wondered what that means, how they help you, even how many guides you have? Are they people that you've known already? What's the difference between a life guide and a healing guide, for example? How does each guide work with you? How long do they stay working with you? Is it important to know about their lives and what else they've done? How will they communicate with you? We are going to really deep dive into all of these questions, and I'm sure many more tidbits are going to come out as part of this conversation. As a medium, I have a mediumship guide, but I also have other guides, and I'll probably reference several of my guides for my own personal examples, just because that's what I work with all the time, and a lot of my own experiences. But I have actually talked with several other psychics and mediums and healers and spirit practitioners of many kinds about their guides and how they understand it and what they think. This might not be a topic that we talk about, with just everybody in our world. But when you have these safe relationships and safe friendships and safe containers to talk about these things, I have heard a lot of stories from a lot of light workers, I'll say it that way. So that's part of where I'm getting this information and what I'm going to share as well. So the first thing I want to talk about is this idea of a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Now, you've heard me talk about this before in different ways, and often we talk about it as it comes to relationships in our life, right? So a friend or a teacher might show up for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, but this is also true of our spirit guide team. And let me take a quick second before we dive into this part to just let you know that we all have a team. It's not just one spirit guide. It's a whole team of guides and inspirers and helpers and ancestors. And we're going to dive into them one by one so you can really get a full understanding. And as you listen or watch, just see what resonates with you, what makes you more curious, what pops into your mind as we're having this conversation about all of this. And that might be really telling for you. So this idea of reason, season, or a lifetime, I believe that we have, again, this whole team of guides and inspirers. I believe that there are some that are with us for our whole entire life. And we'll talk about those as we go and which ones they are. But there are others that might be there only for a reason or a season. Maybe there's a period of our life that we need a little extra guidance or help in a certain area. Maybe there's a reason that they've come. Maybe there's something we need in that particular moment, or we need in that particular phase of our life that we can have help with, or they're going to help in a specific way. So reason, season, or lifetime, just remember that as we talk. It'll come up again as we go. The other question I often get asked when we're talking about spirit guides is how many? How many do I have? Well, I don't think it's a set number for everybody. I don't think it's, like teeth or bones, for example, where we all get a certain number and that's how many you get. And once in a while, there'll be an anomaly where somebody has an extra tooth, but normally it's, however many it is. I don't even know. I think it depends on the person. I think it's case by case basis. And as we talked about in the reincarnation episode, I actually think that we get to choose who is on our team, who are the guides that we come in with. And I believe we can request additional guides either by directly requesting, like asking, or I believe sometimes if we're not asking, like maybe we're not in this work, another guide just steps into our team, kind of a sit in, if you will, or an extra helper. And we don't even have to know about it in a conscious way. Most of this work goes on behind the scenes, which we'll talk about in a little bit when we come to how will guides communicate with you. But really just want you to understand that you have a whole team of supporters. Now, I'm going to start with angels because I know we've done many in an Archangel series here so far. If you don't like the word angels, like we talked about in the Archangel episodes, you can just think of them as pure light beings of divine, pure light and love that have endless amounts of compassion for humanity and really want to support you. For me, I don't believe angels are necessarily attached to the outcomes of our life, but they just want to love us, support us, have compassion for us. I believe that we each have at least 2 personal guardian angels. So this is different than the archangels, like we've been working in our Archangel series with Gabriel and Metatron and Hanael and Raphael, and who else did we do? There's one I'm forgetting. Shamuel. Thank you, Shamuel, who is the finder of lost things, including his name in my brain. So we can work with archangels, but on our personal team, I believe we each have at least 2 guardian angels. I got to meet mine many years ago in a meditation, and I am aware of them once in a while. They will come into my mind and I will know that they are there, but I could move my awareness to sense or feel them at any time I wanted to. So just know, we won't go into angels too much just because we've been doing that Archangel series and we talk a lot about what angels are and all of that. But just know that you've got 2 personal guardian angels, pure light beings on your team, just supporting you, looking over you, watching you compassionately and giving you lots of love. I don't think that the angels necessarily are guides in the same way as our spirit guides, which we're going to talk about next. I think that they're more loving supports for us, nurturers, carers. And it's not that our spirit guides don't care, but our spirit guides have a little bit more of a mission, if you will. So let's talk about them since we're coming to that next. Spirit guides is a term that encompasses several types of guides. It's just a being who is in non-physical, who is usually has some experience, wisdom, knowledge to support us with from the unseen world, from the other side. There can be lots of different types of spirit guides, though. And as we talked about in the reincarnation episode, I think we can even, in different incarnations of our soul, become spirit guides for other people for reason, season, maybe lifetime, who knows. So we do have our main guide, which is often called your life guide. It's the main guide you come in with. He's kind of like team captain, think of him as. And similar to angels, I don't think guides necessarily need an assigned gender. So if you are curious about your guides and you're aware of a guide and you feel like, well, I don't know if this guide is male or female, don't worry about that too much since they're not in a physical body. It's my experience that they don't mind what gender we think of them as or refer to them as. And often, similar to the angels, they might feel or you might sense them as feeling to be more masculine energy or more feminine energy. But typically, when they're in the spirit guide form, they might not necessarily have an assigned like human gender in the way that we think of it here. So I'm going to use he and she interchangeably for most of this and really just try to make it as simplified as possible so we can understand it. So this main guide just comes in at birth with you, is with you for your whole lifetime. So from the beginning to the end. Now, I have heard of people having their main guide change over partway through their life. That hasn't happened to me yet that I know of, but I think it's certainly possible. Maybe you change direction in your life and there's another guide that is going to take over as your team captain. I think that can certainly happen. But just know that we all have one main guide who is like the captain of our spirit team on the other side. Now, the other types of spirit guides that we can have are, for example, I'm a medium, so I have a mediumship guide. I feel like, is with me all of the time because I work in my mediumship quite a bit. I'm probably aware of him the most. I'm probably energetically reaching for him or being in conversation with him or kind of quote unquote calling on him the most, just to support me in the background. But if you're not a medium, it doesn't mean that you won't have a guide for special gifts. We can have special gifts guides. So perhaps you are not a medium, but you're a doctor. You would have a guide to help you with those special gifts that you're working on. If you're a musician, you would have a special guide that is to help you with your soul's expression of your personal mission. So it's not that we, like we were talking about in past episodes, have to do a certain job in our life or have to have a certain focus, but we do have certain qualities that our soul naturally wants to express. Some people are natural givers or natural caretakers. Some people are natural teachers. So whatever it is that you choose to express as your gifts in this lifetime, you will have a guide to support you with that. Sometimes they're helping to facilitate communication. Sometimes they're helping to nudge you in a direction to meet someone across your path, for example. I should say this now before we get too deep into this. I don't believe that guides, angels, inspirers, anyone on your team is going to step in front of your free will. Now, I have heard of this, I think we all have, in certain cases of like a near-death experience where someone experiences, I'm thinking of one story in particular that someone told me where there was a really terrible car accident that they were in, and they were very aware of a light being that they identified as an angel. It just was this bright light being that pulled them out of the car and placed them gently on the side of the road. And it was very shocking to the emergency medical service people that this person, how did they get out of the car? How were they placed so gently? And in this person's experience, it was an angel that moved them. So in that case, in those very rare instances, I think they can do things like that. But by and large, it's my understanding that kind of one of the golden rules is that we have free will. So we're allowed to make bad choices. I hate the word bad because it sounds judgmental, but we're allowed to make choices that are not in our highest good, that are not in alignment with our soul's best path in this lifetime. They're not going to step in and make you make a different choice. So they won't usurp your free will in that way. But they can encourage you, they can nudge you, they can inspire you, right? So special gifts guides. We can also have project-based guides. So suppose that you are a builder and your next project is that you're going to build a hospital that's going to help and save, tens of thousands of people over the course of its existence. Well, there's a chance that a special guide might step on your team to help with this special project, a project-based guide. Now, this is also true if you're, let's say, a teacher of any kind, and you're going to design a course, and that course is meant to support people in growing in their learning and gifts, whatever that might be. You might get a special guide that's going to help you design that course, that's going to help call forward or nudge the people that are supposed to be in that course to learn what it is that you have been charged with teaching or inspired with teaching. So in that way, we can have project-based guides. And the other thing is you can actually call in a guide if you've got a special project that you're working on, even if it's like, I really want to paint my kitchen and I'm not a painter, but I'm going to do this myself. You could request, and it's just as simple as whether you close your eyes or leave them open, whether you say it out loud or just kind of from your mind, from your heart, like, I really would like a guide on my team to help me with all of this painting job. So you can request a project-based guide as well. Healing guides. Now, I believe that we have healing guides as a healer. So if you are someone who works as a healer in any way, it could be energy healing, it could be you're a therapist, it could be, again, medical type healing, it could be any type of healing that you are a practitioner of. I believe there's a healing guide that works with you. In Reiki, there's a Reiki guide. For Reiki Masters, which is the highest level, and it's the level where you get to become a teacher, there is a master guide. So sometimes I've worked with students where I've worked with them through all of their Reiki training, and the Reiki guide they get initially stays with them as the master guide. And then I've had it where when they get attuned to that master level, a master guide steps in, a new guide, a new healing guide to help them and encourage them and support them on their path as a healer. I believe this is true for all types of healers. Now, what about receiving healing? Can we have a guide that gives us healing? I believe so. And I think this happens, I've actually experienced it. I'm a little hesitant to say it because, I guess I can't prove any of this is true. I'm going to take a sip. I didn't tell you guys what I was drinking today. Don't judge me. It's a Diet Pepsi. I need a little caffeine pick me up in the afternoon. I'm at the office for those of you watching on video, and it's been a little bit of a kind of a longer day, but I really wanted to record this for you. So I'm going to take a quick sip and get a little moisture in my throat. So if someone is unwell, I believe that the other side gives a healing guide. I have someone that I know that has a form of cancer in their body, and they have been undergoing many, many types of treatments for a few years now. And I am aware that this person has a guide or more than one guide with them working on healing and supporting them as they move through this illness. Now, it doesn't mean that this healing guide is necessarily assigned to cure that person. I don't know that that's how it works. I think that we have to go through this human process and experience. And I think some things unfold the way that they will in this world. So I don't think it's a matter of deciding who is being healed and who is not being healed. I don't mean healing in a way of putting them back together as if they never had an illness. I mean support. I mean working with the medical team that works with them. I mean helping them as they move through this illness, not just physically, but emotionally, energetically. So you can definitely call in a healing guide if you're not feeling well to give you extra energetic healing. But just know that it doesn't mean that the results are going to be what we think and want them to be. It will be what we need, not what we want. Healing guides. And really, this goes for any other type of like a guide that you might want to receive or to call forward, or that might be beneficial for you, for your team, in accordance with the highest and greatest good of your soul. We always have our higher self. That's our soul self. It's not quite right the way I'm going to say it, but the way I perceive it often is a segment of our highest self is streaming through our physical body, right? We have these physical bodies, brains, organs, all of that. That's part of our human experience. But we also have our soul self. It's just not our full soul self streaming through us, in this body. It'd be too much. But we do have that soul self within us that lives with us, in us, as us. So I think our soul self is there too, your highest self. And the guides work to support the mission that your soul has come to experience in this lifetime. We might not find out what that is exactly while we're on this side. And like we talked about in that reincarnation episode, I believe we choose at least some of our guides to be on this team before we even come here. And I do think it's also very possible that, for example, in my soul's energy, when I was on the other side before I came here and I was creating my blueprint with my team and the qualities of me, there's a very real possibility that one of the career paths I could have chosen was a psychologist. I took some psychology classes. I'm a pretty natural counselor for people typically. So it's possible that I set it up that, okay, if I choose to move forward with becoming a counselor and get my licensing and I'm going to see clients, guide X, I would like you to then come on my team at that time. So I might have even set up ahead of time the requests for if this, then that guide, if this, then that guide. So it can also work like that. But that's not all. We don't just have spirit guides. Not that that wouldn't be enough, because spirit guides are pretty incredible. We also have inspirers. Now, what is an inspirer? This can be like, I was an artist for several years and still fancy myself a bit artsy. Maybe I want to be inspired about a piece of artwork to create. It doesn't pertain to my overall career necessarily. It's just an expression of the qualities of my soul, and I would like some additional inspiration besides just my higher self. So I might, whether I'm doing it like explicitly or whether I don't even know I'm doing it, I might be available for inspiration from someone on the other side who was an artist. Maybe it's a famous artist, maybe it's a never got known and recognized artist. But I believe we can have inspiration from people on the other side. I think sometimes they're people like will have passed away, and I think sometimes they're spirit guides that have not been people recently, or maybe were people many years ago. And I think sometimes they're people who take an interest in us for whatever reason. We're going to come on to that a little bit more in the next little segment here, but it's really just anyone that we receive inspiration from. Now, if you're a writer, you might have a guide, like a writing guide, that also serves as an inspirer for you in this capacity. But you might have an inspirer who is not on your permanent team that just inspires you for one talk that you're going to give or one essay that you're going to write, for example. So inspirers are anyone from the other side who chooses to come and inspire you in your soul's energy. And the other thing is, again, we might not know that that's what's happening. Our conscious mind might not perceive, oh, I am receiving inspiration right now, I'm going to write a poem. It might not work like that. And it could be inspiration about, send your grandma a greeting card, for example. It doesn't have to be always creative inspiration. It could be any type of inspiration. I want to come on to this next one on the list of who's at your spirit guide roundtable: ancestors. Now, if you remember, quite a while back, we had the Ancestral Realm episode, and we talked all about ancestors and who they are and what they are. I actually believe that ancestors are not only our blood lineage ancestors, which of course they can be ancestors as well, but maybe you had a past life and maybe you were related to someone in that life who is an ancestor of you, who's going to sit on your team that you've chosen. Maybe it's an ancestor of this lifetime that you knew or didn't know. For example, maybe you're a baker and you have a great grandma who was an amazing baker in her town, and she's going to sit and inspire you as an ancestor. But I also believe, and you can go back to that episode for reference, I also believe that ancestors can be of our career heritage, for example. So I don't know why I keep thinking of writers today. So if someone was a writer in the past, they will be a writer from your ancestral lineage, because you guys are all writers, for example. If someone was a nurse in the past, if you're a nurse right now, for example, all the nurses that ever nursed back to the beginning of time will be in your nurse ancestry, energetically, the energy of those who were nurses, even if they didn't have that formal title. Same with any profession. Plumbers, if you're a plumber, there is a lineage of everyone who was a plumber before you. A pilot, I think it's across whatever it is that you do. If you're a parent, I think there's a lineage of people that were parents before you that are part of that lineage. So it doesn't only mean quote unquote blood related or related by family. It can be related by hobbies, by trades, by professions, by gifts, by special interests. If you're a medium or a psychic, for example, all the other psychic mediums that ever psychic mediumed are part of your lineage and will have an interest or an ability to come and sit on your team for a reason, a season, or maybe even a lifetime to help inspire you, to help support you in your work. Sometimes they could even point out a little something, like maybe you are, I'm trying to think of like other careers besides mediumship to apply this to, but maybe there's a speed bump in your work that you're just kind of struggling with this one little area. Well, maybe they can put clients on your path that are going to help you to really, to really be able to work on this challenge that you're having because they want you to succeed. They want to support you. And really, the ancestral positions are so powerful because they have experience either doing the thing that you've done or the thing that you want to do, or being in your family or living at different time periods, and they can really offer wisdom and guidance. Now, we also can work with ascended masters. Some people count the archangels in the ascended masters and some people don't. But ascended masters would be people or beings, I should say, like a Buddha, like a Muhammad, like a Jesus, like Abraham, ascended masters. So those that have achieved mastery in this lifetime that are on the other side, someone like Ganesh, Shiva. So any of those deities are on that ascended master list. You can call on them anytime to come and work with you. I'm not entirely sure that they're like permanently on the spirit team, but if there's someone that you work with all the time, then I don't see why they couldn't be. For example, if you have a devotional practice to Ganesh, let's just say, I'm sure Ganesh would be available to you at your call and working with you on a pretty consistent and regular basis. So I don't think it's so cut and dry necessarily of someone having to be on your permanent team versus comes in and works with you here and there. The question often also comes up, do you already know them? Like, have you known them before? Is that why you're on their team? I think sometimes and sometimes no. Again, remember I said I think we choose many members of this team, but I also think that there's availability for if this would be in accordance with the highest and greatest good of your soul for someone to kind of step in, like an ancestral guide, for example. Maybe you just decided to undertake this new career path. Maybe you were I don't know, maybe you were an accountant before and now you're going to oversee an entire department. Well, you could have a different guide swap in for that. And it doesn't mean you necessarily knew them before, but I do think certainly sometimes we might know them before. Maybe we had another lifetime with them. Maybe we worked on a guide team with them at some other point in time, and that's why we chose them. And I think it's interesting to make distinctions between these guides, but I do think there is some overlap. So I think sometimes our life guide and our mediumship guide, for example, might be one and the same. I think sometimes our healing guide that personally offers us healing and the one that supports us in our work as a healer might be one and the same sometimes. I think mine is the same a lot of the time. So I think that there's a lot of overlap, but I don't think it needs to be so cut and dry. And I do think that, even whether someone was related to us or not, maybe it's a former teacher that is just wanting to inspire you in your current work. Maybe it's someone that's taking a special interest in you based on the direction you're headed or the goals that you're setting for yourself. So it's not as limited as I think we want to try to make it. Now, again, how long does each guide stay working with you? I think it's case by case basis. I've known some people, like I said, that their life guide swapped out, or their gifts guide. Some people are channels. Maybe you're channeling one being, and then one day a different being shows up to be channeled and you're in agreement with that. And then you also channel another being, or maybe it switches completely. So I don't think it's so cut and dry. Is it important to know about your guides and what lives they have lived before? Might be a controversial answer. Our human nature is, of course, to want to know, right? I want to know, what did my guide do? Who were they? What did they do? Were they famous? what could I know about them? I think sometimes we can know some information, but I don't think it's pertinent for us to necessarily know all the information about them. I've had my guides convey to me on different occasions that they don't necessarily care if I get their name exactly right. When I am sitting in a meditation and I'm kind of floating the thought, what should I call you, or how should I refer to you? I might get a name that doesn't make a lot of sense. It might not be a name that I recognize or that I understand from like a human perspective. It might be a weird name or a weird word. I just go with it. And I once had a guide, she's still with me actually, and I couldn't tell between two names which one I was receiving. And I was like, is it this or is it this? Because they sound the same. And she was like, just pick one. So I don't think it's necessarily important that we even have to work with them in a conscious way. If it's not part of your work or what you do or what the focus of your life is, they will work with you in the background without your conscious awareness that they're working with you. They don't need you to be aware of them in that way. And quite honestly, I'm mostly not aware of them. I might be aware of my mediumship guide when I'm sitting in meditation, but I am almost never aware of him when I'm working. He's very much in the background working with me. So I work with him directly more in meditation. Sometimes I'll sit with him if I have a question or something I'm struggling with or working on. It could be about my mediumship work, or it could be about my life. I go to him for some of those things as well. But I don't necessarily know that we need to know, oh, my guide was a shaman. And I don't think we need to know that. Actually, I think I developed that philosophy largely from Andy Bing. It's the way he teaches it, that we can sometimes know information, but is it necessary? Is it something our human mind is wanting more than our soul is needing? Probably a lot of the time. But that being said, I sometimes have given information about someone's spirit guide and they'll say, everyone says that to me. I've had other mediums tell me XYZ details about my guide, just like you. And that's pretty validating if different people are becoming aware of the same information. And if you want to know the information about your guides, it's about building a relationship with them, sitting with them, mostly in meditation, which I know no one loves to hear. But it's about building that relationship with them so you will know when they step into your space, just like we've done on all of the Archangel series, the Healing with the Angelic Realm series. When we sit in our personal space bubble, open our aura, and invite them to come in and sit next to us, that's the same way you sit with your guide. And it's just really getting a sense of, how do they feel? Maybe there's a color that you understand with them. Maybe a name pops into your mind that you can use for them. So it's more about how will they work with us than, oh, what can I know about your past? That's how I approach it anyway. I know very little about my guides' pasts, to be quite honest. I know how they feel. I know where if I was to stand, the way I always explain this is probably confusing, but if I was to stand in the middle of a clock, right, and have all the numbers around me in a circle, I know which direction which guide approaches me from, or where I sense them, just how I've set it up so I can better identify them. I typically know if it's, some of them are only in the background, but if it's someone that I'm working with in a more direct, intentional way, I typically know some of the things they help me with. Like if I've called on a guide for a project, for example, well, I know they're going to help me write that project or whatever it is. So I think it's more about building the relationship in that capacity and less about what can we know, right? Can I dig into your past? It's more about, what's the relationship we're going to have? How will I understand you? How will guidance come in? And that brings me to the final piece of this. How will spirit guides communicate with you? Most often, it will not be a booming voice from the sky. It will be a little bit of inspiration. I just talked to someone earlier, and I know she listens, so shout out to her. I'm not going to say her name, but um, she was telling me that all of a sudden she needed to look for a printout, a piece of paper that had some information on it, and she just felt like, you know what, I'm going to go, I think it's in that box in my closet, I'm just going to go in there and look in there. And she started pulling out old journals and things she had written and processes she'd been doing. And then it dawned on her, oh, you know what, that piece of paper I need is in the computer. It's not even printed out. It's digital, it's not printed. And so it's a strong potential that her guides were wanting her to find something in there. And she did find quite a bit of valuable information for herself and where she was in her journey. But that's often, it'll be through those nudges, through those, I just want to go do this. I just feel inspired to do this. I've told you guys that sometimes I'll have like a package downstairs at my house and it's there for like a day. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of the day, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go get that package right now. And it's maybe not even the time I would normally do it. And I cross paths with someone who I needed to talk to in the building, or I meet someone new and I wouldn't have met them if I had not left my place and gotten the elevator at that exact moment. So a lot of times they are working with us in the background. It's that encouragement sometimes when we feel like call this person, or research this, or look into this school, or see about this trip. It's in the small subtle ways, and it's following those nudges. Now you can kind of blend those two things together and start to sit in little bits of meditation and understand, oh, okay, my life guide, for example, sits on my right side and they feel very solid and grounded. And I feel like I can sense them in a purple color, for example. And I know when I feel something slightly on my right side, that's going to be my life guide, just for example. It's not the way it always works. It's different for all of us because we're all unique individuals. But I just wanted to go over all of this who's on your spirit team thing because I've been getting asked about spirit guides a lot. I also want to remind you that we are very responsible for our own human experience here, and your guides are not going to give you the answers. They're not going to prepare you in a way that you can avoid discomfort, that you can stay in your bubble of your comfort zone. That's not why we're here. I've fought against this quite a bit myself, trust me. We're really here to have these experiences, and sometimes we have to go through uncomfortable times. We have to be outside of our comfort zone. We have these struggles, challenges, discomforts to move us, to grow us, to put us in a direction that is in alignment with what we want to do while we're here as a soul. So don't expect them to tell you what to do. Don't expect them to judge you. Don't expect them to be hard on you. It's not like that. It's a loving, kind, genuine relationship. They sometimes will be a little firm with you if you get to the point where you can kind of sense the guidance that they're trying to give you, but it's always with the intention of your highest and greatest good. So I've often thought about doing a spirit guides course for people because I know everyone's interested in that, but it really is a lot of relationship building with them. And to be quite honest, a lot of people are just looking for a shortcut, looking for the answers, and that's just not how any of this actually works. So I would encourage you to start sitting in little bits of meditation with the intention of where in my bubble is my spirit guide, my main guide, or just whichever one you want first. Where are they going to approach from? I might feel them on my, kind of over my shoulder. I might feel something a little bit above my head. I might feel something, wherever it is. And it's different for all of us. And that's sometimes frustrating, but also kind of the beauty of it. So I hope that this has been intriguing for you. And I hope that you feel a little more comforted that you have a whole team of guides, inspirers, ancestors, angels, ascended masters, helpers available for you. And just know your loved ones that have crossed over can inspire you as well. They can help you, encourage you, love you, and sometimes give little bits of inspiration and guidance as well, because they definitely care about you and what is going on with you, even if you never knew them. So I hope that this has been helpful and intriguing and answered some questions and maybe tickled your mind a little bit to dive deep and start having your own experiences. Let me know what you thought about this episode. Who's on your spirit guide team? Do you know a little bit more now than you did? I hope so. And just know that even though I am not on your spirit guide team, I am on your human family team, and that I am sending you support and encouragement and lots of love. And of course, big hugs from inside Spirit Speakeasy. Bye for now.